So hello and welcome everyone to this Zululami webinar. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pat Lambie. I'm here today as part of the Collins Group, who are the developers of the magnificent Zululami Luxury Coastal Estate. Some of you may know my background is rugby, but with a family business and property, it was a natural transition into the industry last year once playing days came to an end. And I feel very fortunate to have had the opportunity to join the Collins Group and now form part of the residential projects team. And so on that note, I'm delighted to be your host today for our first Collins Connect, where we'll be unpacking some of the very special and unique features that make Zululami what it is. Before I ask our panelists to tackle some of the questions that we have lined up for them today, I'd like to introduce them all to you, all of them having played key roles in bringing Zululami to life. So first up, we have Murray Collins with the beautiful moustache from H. Collins & Son. How's it, Murray?
Pat, how are you?
Good, thanks. So Murray is the developer of Zululami Luxury Coastal Estate. He's third generation, a member of the H. Collins & Son business, a company which has been involved in property for more than 100 years. Then we have Jeff Perkins from Collins Residential. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning, Pat. Morning, guys.
Jeff is the developer of Zululami, and he's the head of the residential projects division at Collins Residential.
Pat seems to have frozen a little bit. He's back. Okay.
One of the ladies on our panel this morning is Bernice. Did you lose me?
We did.
Bernice,
Pat, maybe start with Bernice again. I know you're on the North Coast, so your connectivity may struggle at times.
Okay, apologies. Bernice, can you hear me now?
Yes, Pat.
Right. Okay, so Bernice is from Land Art Studio. She is our landscaping architect who's masterfully crafted the landscape philosophy, which is the heart and soul of the Zululami vision. The other lady on our panel this morning is Lisa Rorick from Lisa Rorick Architects. Hi, Lisa.
How's it, Pat?
Lisa is the lead architect curating the architectural vision and code, and her designs have been brought to life in the Zululami Gatehouse and Clubhouse to date. Then we've got Richard Ellis from Slingshot Investments. Greetings, Rich.
Morning, Pat. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
So Rich is our principal contractor on site, and Rich has built the Zululami Gatehouse. He's busy building the Clubhouse as well as the Moyana apartments. And then last but certainly not least, we have Andrew Smith, who is the head of the Zululami sales team. Good day to you, Andrew.
Yeah, good morning, everybody.
So Andrew heads up our sales, and he heads up a number of sales within developments in KZN, KwaZulu-Natal. He's got a strong grasp of North Coast and the property markets therein and the investment potential at Zululami. So we are aware that some of our guests may not have been to Zululami before, and we obviously look forward to hosting you for a site visit post-lockdown. But to give you all a sense of what Zululami is about, we're going to kick off with a short intro to the estate to set the scene.
I think we might have lost Andrew's volume.
We've lost some volume somewhere here. The visuals were still great.
Okay, there you have it. Everyone back? Everyone can hear me again?
Yeah, Bob.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we have lots to talk about this morning, and we'll be touching on a number of those visuals that you've just seen in that short video. But we would like this webinar to be as engaging as possible. So please feel free to ask questions to our panelists via the Q&A or the chat features on your screens, and we'll try and answer them as we go along once we see them, or at the end if time allows. So we'll kick off with Jeff and Marie, and as the developers of Zululami, there's apparently quite an amusing story as to how you found this opportunity and how it was introduced to you, Marie. So Jeff, maybe you'd like to fill us in with how this all transpired and the way in which you gave Murray his first glance of Zululami.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. We had just we were right in the heart of the building phase of our Emberton development up in Hillcrest. We just completed the acquisition of our retirement scheme in Mount Edgecombe, so a lot had been going on in a short space of time. And Andrew Smith had been saying to me, Jeff, we've got to get into the North Coast. It's the next best thing that's going to happen in property development, and you know he's going to look actively. And next thing, Zululami came up, but I didn't know how to get Murray to the site, because I know if I'd said to him, let's go and have a look at another piece of land, he would have keeled over. So I told him I was going to take him out for a magic breakfast. Told him not to eat before he got to the office. He came in ravenous. And generally the plan, if you're hungry, is you go straight to the destination where you're going to be eating. But I bypassed Umhlanga and just kept driving towards Belito and picked Andrew Smith up. And within 3 minutes of being on the crest of Zululami and looking down onto that magnificent coastline, Murray's mind was made up, and here we are, a couple of years down the line. So all worked out well. Thanks.
So Murray, you may have been conned into your acquisition of Zululami, but you're no stranger to the North Coast. Would you like to tell us about your earliest roots here, why you've chosen to be so heavily invested in property on the North Coast of KwaZulu-Natal?
Yes, Pat, I was properly conned by Jeff, but having seen the site and then the passion of Andrew Smith, it was a hard one not to get involved in. Really, when you stood on those vehicles on the back there where the cane was very high, it was an incredible view, and just the outlook and the challenge and the prospects of what lay ahead was fantastic. So we're very happy, obviously, to have been conned, and delighted to what we're doing at Zululami. Coming back to your question, the North Coast, yeah, well, what do I say? That my grandfather bought the first beach cottage in Willard's Beach, which is between Thompson's Bay and Belito, in 1952. The cottage was built in 1948, and he bought it for £2,000, which in those days was less than 1-to-1, so probably 1,800 Rand. So that can give you a bit of an idea of how long our family's been involved in. As kids growing up, we loved the North Coast, and in a funny way, I couldn't believe that it would ever grow. Dirt roads down to the beach in those days, and my great uncles were pioneer farmers in the early 30s and up in Upper Tongaat. So as kids, we grew up there. As family, we had our roots there, but never really understood at the time that this would grow into what it is today. And I think the South Coast was the first developed, and the North Coast followed. But there've been so many things that have evolved since then, and now we've got to accept that the North Coast is not the old beautiful sleeping giant as it was. It's now an emerging, big metropolis, if you want to call it that, north of Durban, with the airport and all the things that are going to go on, plus the infrastructure and the ability to create something unique in the North Coast. Apart from its natural beauty and people and access to industry and logistics, it's just tailor-made for growth in South Africa and Southern Africa. So yeah, we've been there a long time. We love it. It's got great climate. It's got everything going for it, and we look forward to making Zululami part of the growth of the whole North Coast. Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, well done, Murray. Jeff, maybe just for our listeners, you'd like to give us just an overview of exactly where Zululami is situated, when it was launched, how big the estate is, and maybe even how many opportunities there are there in total?
Yeah, sure, Pat. So once Zululami is built out, there'll be about 750 homes, a mixture between single residential and sectional title homes. It's a hop, skip, and a jump from the airport, 10 or 15 minutes, just north of Ballito town. For those, I know we've got a few overseas people that have tuned in today. And the entire estate's 111 hectares with a very generous, which we'll hear about later from Bernice, portion dedicated to open spaces, wetlands, and so on. So, I mean, yeah, it's very generous in its size, and we'll touch on a little later on where we are in terms of its progress to date, but it's been remarkable. Thanks, Pat.
Great. Okay, well, you've led me into the next question then beautifully. So we all know Murray's a keen conservationist and is passionate about rehabilitation and reinstating of natural biomes. They're both key for his developments. So Bernice, as our landscaping architect, maybe you can expand on the landscape philosophy for Zululami, as your vision, it uniquely goes beyond just indigenous planting.
Thanks, Pat. Yes, we feel really privileged to be involved with Zululami and to be working with Murray and Jeff and their team, and as well as the professional team. And as landscape architects, we are fortunate to work with the spaces between all the built elements. That's the roads, the houses, the clubhouses, etc. And what's interesting to understand is the scale of Zululami. And as Jeff mentioned, it's 111 hectares. And of that, we have about plus minus 43 hectares that will go over to the outdoor environment. And that's road verges, it's some formal landscaping around the gatehouse, all the ecological zones, parks, sports areas, etc. So we firmly believe that this 43 hectares will become the nature of Zululami. We actually started working with contractors on site in October 2017 and started the process of rehabilitating and transforming the site. It was essentially a sugarcane farm, so it was a monoculture of sugarcane with very small remnants of ecological value. We had a portion of an existing swamp forest, and there were wetlands, but they were very degraded. So we've gone about rehabilitating and bringing back some of KZN's typical coastal biomes. So the swamp forest has been enhanced, the wetlands are being enhanced, we've planted KZN coastal forest, we've rehabilitated some areas into coastal grassland as well. So really the intention of all the rehabilitation work is to improve the species diversity and to ensure the long-term sustainability of these ecological zones. So as you can see, the map that's come up, the area being highlighted is what we refer to as the valley. And that valley alone is 12 hectares and beautifully centrally positioned for Zululami. And as has been mentioned, we feel this will really become the heart and soul for the residents of Zululami. So as nature returns and starts to flourish and thrive, so will the residents of Zululami. And I think with the 43 hectares being rehabilitated, this nature will really become the asset for the residents. And that's why we've started to lightly activate these areas because we believe people commune in the outdoors. So things have started happening and certain things are finished. We've introduced a network of trails for walking and running. There's a lovely boardwalk that's been introduced. It kind of hugs the existing swamp forest. So you get really beautiful up close and personal with these old ficus. And you see this beautiful fern understory. There's a trickle of a river running underneath it. There's the sunrise deck that's been positioned just next to a big reed bed. So the bird life is beautiful. You can watch the sunrise, do some yoga, and hopefully start to de-stress. Just before the shutdown, we finished the citrus park. It's a small little park that's kind of connected to the sports node or the future sports node. And the idea really is that we've planted lemons and limes and some indigenous trees that also have high vitamin C value. We've interspersed it with wild rosemary. There's sort of 2 lawn terraces, and the idea is for people to come, throw their picnic blankets down, have a gin and tonic, watch the sunrise, and hopefully their kids enjoy the fun play equipment that's also been introduced. Also to note that at the bottom of Zululami, there's a beach access to Sheffield Beach. So it's a pedestrian access, really easy, lovely. You go through a natural little forest, so it's quite a lovely experience. When we get back, we're hoping to commence work on a harvest garden. The whole point of the harvest garden is to really create an old school community style garden. And that's to engage people with this outdoor area, make sure that they start to take ownership, and hopefully the food can become a sharing thing. And I think it's a lovely way for people to get to know each other.
Brilliant,
So really the
I think one of the things that excites me the most is the direct beach access that we have. 2 beach access points, very, very easy walks down to the beach. So Benicio, you've given us a really good overview of the philosophy on the entire estate. If we focus in now a little bit, a lot of our listeners are homeowners who will be busy designing their dream homes to be built at Zululami. What would your advice be to them with regards to landscaping?
So I would definitely, if you're starting on your journey to designing your garden, as per Lisa's kind of architectural guidelines, it's all about nature. So I would start from the outside in, understand what you really want out of your outdoor spaces, and work with your architect very closely. And I would make sure that your garden is not just ornamental, that it has function for barefoot play. I would plant some food, even if it's just a well-positioned lemon tree. Bring nature back into your house. I would make sure that you plant for the fauna around Zululami so that you're dealing with a balanced environment, and just create a holistic house and garden. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Bernice. Okay, so now once we've created these incredible external environments, obviously the next step is to actually live within these spaces. And so Lisa, as our lead architect, you've curated the design code for Zululami. So what features have you crafted that you feel are distinctive to the architectural style? And I think we'll have an image of the gatehouse that will be pulled onto screen as a reference point for you now.
Hi, Pat. We try to keep the code pretty simple, and our approach is basically all the cues come from the site and the location, you living on the North Coast. We've linked this with sustainability, and we think, you know, if you can join those 2 things, we're trying to create a timeless architecture that will stand the test of time. So our 3 design principles are basically connecting with nature through large openings and engaging where you are in the landscape. And then passive design elements. So it's large, deep verandas, which obviously give you great sun control. Courtyards, which create spaces which you can get out of the prevailing winds, and little areas that you can are completely private within. So it's a hierarchy of spaces. These spaces become your own little spaces, private spaces within the greater estate. We also, obviously, verandas are a big thing. That obviously breaks down the scale of buildings, as well as sun control. And we all know everybody loves to live on a veranda. It's kind of how people live on the North Coast. We've also tried to have a very simple, natural finishes palette so that it ties in with nature beautifully. And then our last thing is sustainability, which, you know, which you need. You've got the government, it's a government law now that you need certain elements in your house: solar panels, rainwater harvesting, grey water systems, energy efficient appliances, LED lighting. We believe if you can combine these 2 elements, we're going to get a holistic approach to the estate that will be timeless. I think up on the screen now, I think up on the screen now are 2 compact homes, turnkey homes we have designed for the estate. So these are great examples of how we've engaged with the code. Basically, we've seen the living space as one large veranda. So the whole thing slides and opens and connects with nature. And all these living spaces also relate back to a private courtyard. So you can very easily get out of those prevailing winds that we were talking about.
Thanks, Lisa. So my family and I, we all moved to the North Coast just over a year ago now, and I don't think there's any better place in the world to experience this whole indoor and outdoor living that you are referencing here. So thank you for that. Now, there are a number of people listening in on this webinar from all over the country, some from overseas too, and we're aware that building rates, they vary from area to area quite significantly in some instances. And so, Rich, as the principal contractor on site, our next question is aimed at you here. Once a potential homeowner has chosen their piece of land, what are some of the ways to make the build process a little bit more efficient and to potentially reduce costs?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. There's obviously a number of issues that can affect the build cost. So, for instance, the site's an obvious one, and normally a double story would end up costing more, but in this instance, it actually helps. You've got a smaller footprint with the piles and the foundations on the North Coast. The roof, whether it's concrete roof, sheeted roof, the features, the rockwork cladding, and timber cladding, how you deal with that. And obviously, once you inside all the internal finishes, the list can go on. So those can all be managed with your building team. I've had a look at the panel of builders, and there's a good team there. A lot of them I've worked with in the past and know of them. So yeah, between the architect and the builder, you work in all of those. What you do need to keep in mind is, do your detailing right up front. Concentrate on that, because you don't want to do too many changes and submit as built, as there can be delays with KwaZulu-Natal in this regard.
Okay, I mean, you've touched on it already here, Rich. Does the time that you as a contractor spend on site play a big role in the overall cost of the end product? And then while I'm talking, as an example, what do you think the estimated time frame of the build is? So as an example, if we use a 300 square meter house, from the day you break ground until the person can move into their home, how long are we looking at? And maybe some of the boxes that need to be ticked before you and your team get on site.
Yeah, so once approvals come through from the local municipality and site handover is done, you could do a double-story house in 8 or 9 months. If there are changes along the way and as-built's got to be submitted, that can cause further delays. That's why I say that can prolong it quite a bit. So it's something that needs to be kept in mind. So you need to try and get all those details right up front rather than changing. And it's obviously more efficient that you don't increase your monthly cost by staying on site longer than necessary.
Okay, great. Thanks, Rich. Now, besides land, not everyone would want or has the appetite to purchase a piece of land, design a home, and go through the whole build process. But luckily at Zululami, we have quite a diverse mix. And Andrew, as the head of the Zululami sales team, could you tell us a little bit more about what options there are available at Zululami currently?
Yeah, thanks, Pat. We've certainly come a long way since those early days. And I think the renders that Lisa's put up on the screen, just showing the gatehouse and what a spectacle that structure has become and how often it's commented on. Along with the clubhouse progressing as beautifully as it is, nearing completion. I believe the completion date is set for the end of the year, early January next year. So Zululami certainly is a different kettle of fish altogether to what it was back when we launched in December 2016, January 2017. And if I may just give a little bit of history to those that might not know Zululami, and I know we've got a number of folk who have responded to this webinar from upcountry who haven't visited the site. But back in 2016, Zululami was an old sugar farm, and it wasn't being worked particularly at that stage. And so it became overgrown, and there was a lot of bugweed and lantana, a bit of dumping that had happened on site. And a lot of beach sand too, which a number of our homeowners who went on those early journeys with us can attest to, getting stuck and having to push on the heat of February and what have you. So it really has been a journey, but we're in a very, very exciting phase for Zululami right now. The record will show that the public's response to this product was just completely overwhelming. During that launch phase, we concluded over 250 million rands worth of sales in a trying environment at that stage, if you look back historically to the political and economic status of the country. So it was a fantastic vote of confidence by the public in the developer's vision. And so to date, we've got about 130 homeowners that have taken transfer of their properties, and about 30 odd that have now bought into the next phase and are awaiting transfer. So that bodes really, really well for Zululami. And this is a big year, and for the next 12 months, it's a big time for Zululami, and that a lot of construction is going to start happening, and a lot of people are going to start to make their dreams come true. Now, remember, when we launched Zululami, we were only selling vacant land at that stage. And things have changed now that the estate has matured, and we can offer several options to homeowners. And let's just run through whichever life stage you're at. I'll run through some of the product that we can offer you. So let's start with a young married couple who want to get onto the property ladder, possibly looking for a little 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom type unit. We're very pleased to be able to offer you 2 developments within Zululami that you can choose from. Prices for a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom will begin at about 1.9 million rand and go through to about 2.3 million, depending on which of the 2 projects you choose. One of them is significant sea views, dam, valley views, and the other is perched, Aura is perched on a hill with long views, beautiful views over this wetland that Bernice was describing, and close to the fishing dam, close to the harvest garden, and close to the clubhouse. If you're a growing family and you're looking for a bit more space, we've got land that you can buy, design your own home specific to your requirements. And as Rich was saying, the panel of builders and architects that have been selected are very, very capable, and they'll be sure to make that experience as painless as possible for you. The other sector of the market that we've seen a lot of is the empty nester. And those are the guys that are moving down from the traditional highway, Kloof, Winston Park, big homes, and they're downscaling. Their kids have left, they're at varsity, and these folk want to come down and stay, and experience the lifestyle that the North Coast offers. And so, speaking to them in particular, we have a number of home packages that they might be interested in looking at, where it's quite a painless type of approach. You're presented with a floor plan that's approved, it's priced, and all the engineering and the architectural work is done, and it's a very, very seamless way to get into the estate and to start to enjoy the facilities that we've got. We also have a number of investors that have bought with us, investors who've purchased apartments from a buy to let point of view. And we've also got a few folk who've bought land with a view to speccing and then on selling. And traditionally, the North Coast has offered really, really good returns to speculation, especially when you buy into a project at its launch phase and wait for the estate to mature, and then the value follows. So investors out there, it's worth coming and have a look. We've still got some really, really well-priced stock. We have a number of upcountry buyers, the semigration that you guys have heard about. People wanting to move families down to the North Coast so that they can experience this lifestyle. We've got wonderful schools, great shopping, close to the airport, and that opens up a great market for us. And we found probably about 30% of our inquiries to date have been from the Gauteng, sort of Pretoria, Joburg market. So we're quite excited about that. And then lastly, the international buyers that we've got. And I'm going to give a shout out here to Pierre and Sonia. They're from Belgium, just outside Antwerp. We've got some folk from Germany. We've got some chaps from England. And locally, we have the guys down in Cape Town. Gus, I see you logged on earlier. Well done. Good to have you on board. So guys, Zululami is got something for everybody, and it doesn't matter what life stage you're at, we will be able to find you something special. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Andrew. Thorough overview there. And it's great that there's such a big mix of options that cater for everyone. Jeff, Andrew alluded to it, that we've come a long way since launch at the end of December 2016. Maybe an interesting point to mention for our listeners is exactly what needs to go into a development to get an estate established. Obviously, it was sugarcane when the land was purchased, and now we've seen those beautiful renders and images of what the estate's looking like right now.
Yeah, thanks, Pat. And just before I mention that, I'd just like, one of the questions that was posed to me is, when do we think we'll be able to get back on site? And that's the golden question right now. And when will contractors be allowed back? I think we were debating pre-going live here, and it looks like construction might be level 2, which is devastating because we don't know how far out level 2 is. But I guess we'll all hear that in good time. So right now we don't know. I've had reports of middle of May, but I guess time will tell. It's also an interesting time, Pat. You know, when you lived and worked at home as long as we all have, I mean, I don't think anybody probably in their lifetime has spent as much time in their house as we have. You start to realize how important or how badly designed your home office actually is. When I have this conversation, whether you're cooking in our kitchen or watching TV, everyone can hear it. So it's not the ideal home office. And it'll be interesting because we all know how this whole move towards working from home has been gathering momentum. And I think now, because of this lockdown setup, it's become much more relevant. And it'll be interesting to see how these home offices get designed in new homes, Lisa, and how homeowners will probably pay a bit more focus to that space in a house. But yeah, Pat, I mean, we've
already had requests like that where we halfway, when we're in the design process, people have said we need a desk in every room so every child can work separately and not all be in the TV room at once. So it's already happening.
Yeah, and so I mean, yeah, when we inherited Zululami, Andrew mentioned it. This was an old sugarcane farm. It was a development that was supposed to happen 10 years prior to us getting involved, and it does take time because you've a lot of beach sand there. It's complex. We made a number of changes to the original plan, made it a little bit more efficient, changed some of the sectional titles into mini sub opportunities, just a smaller site, more affordable for that person that wants a single residential. So it has been a long haul, and to get to the stage where we can transfer a site to a purchaser that has that. You know, one thing we've prided ourselves on in all our developments, Emberton, Merv, we try as much as possible, planning, permitting, to get amenities in so that by the time the first person lives there, there are amenities in place. And, you know, that's a big thing for us. So with phase 1 and phase 2 of our development out the way and phase 3 looming, the next bit for us to really tackle will be the sports amenities, and down the line, their future clubhouses to come in addition to the main one. So yeah, Pat, we've made really good progress so far, and we're pleased. And we've even got some people living there now, which is great.
Thanks, Jeff. I see we've lost Murray, or he's certainly disappeared off my panel screen. So Andrew Smith, I'll pose this question to you then, because you have that beautiful view of Christmas Bay in the background. There's been a question on the Q&A chat here with regards to whether there's another sectional title development coming later within the estate that is closer to Christmas Bay. And I can tell the person who posed that question that all our sectional title developments are currently either being built or are going to be coming off the ground soon at Zululami. But Andrew, maybe it's an opportunity for you to just mention the fact that since the Collins Group acquired the piece of land that Zululami sits on, we also have the neighboring estate, Seaton.
That's right, Pat. We are thrilled that things have evolved the way they have, because our Zululami homeowners will remember that when we launched Zululami, we had those two magnificent, easily accessible walkways that gave us access to either Sheffield Beach or to Christmas Bay. But what the developers have done is that they've now looked north, they've looked over the fence effectively and acquired Seaton, the neighboring farm. But the master stroke here is that they were able to, in purchasing that plot of land, secure a beach frontage, an actual kilometre and a bit of beach, which through the homeowners associations and the general rights of servitude that will be registered, the right of way servitudes that will be registered, Zululami homeowners now have three choices when they decide to go to the beach on any given Saturday holiday. And via a very clever linkage between Zululami and Seaton, we can now walk from our homes through our estate directly onto the beach at Christmas Bay and enjoy the tidal pools and everything else that the beachfront has to offer us.
Thanks, Andrew. Jeff, we'll jump back to you, but it's a question in a similar vein. So we've got reciprocal access to our neighbours at Seaton. There's been a question here, what is the relationship with Montcalm? I know that we'll be sharing a common external boundary fence and the internal fence line may be dropped, but maybe you'd like to just elaborate a little bit on that, Jeff.
Sorry, Pat, I'm going to have to, I was busy trying to get Murray back. We've got him back. So I was just assisting him. As we all know, Murray is not an IT expert.
Hello.
But he's fast becoming one. I'm sorry, Pat, just shoot again.
Okay, I said, we've had a question here on the chat. What is the relationship with Montcalm and what is the deal going to be between Montcalm and Zululami in the future?
Montcalm is going to be integrated into Zululami. We had a good debate about this. It's we felt there were benefits. There are going to be benefits for our Zululami homeowners in terms of pedestrian to be able to move through that access going forward. So they are going to be integrated in time, and Montcalm will, for all intents and purposes, become a village within Zululami Estate.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Mary, we lost you for a few minutes and you dodged the bullet. I threw your question at Andrew Smith, but basically we touched on the master plan that you have for the North Coast. Since your acquisition of Zululami, you've obviously invested heavily into Seaton Estate, and I'm not sure if you'd like to just touch on the vision for the North Coast that you have.
Well, Pat, I think it's common knowledge that we're busy undergoing a massive plan for everything north that we involved in of Zululami, which includes Seaton and right up to, just south of Stanger. So there's a big plan going on. I don't think that's for discussion now, but Seaton's obviously an incredible opportunity that came up after purchasing Zululami and starting development. And it just really has it's a creme de la creme site. It gives us the most beautiful beach access for Zululami people. We'll see it as one estate eventually with access to and fro, two separate homeowners associations, separately run, but with reciprocal rights and continuity. And gives Zululami people access to what I think is the best beach on the North Coast, and which is Seaton Bay, Christmas Bay. And it has different features to Zululami, but it definitely strengthens the brand of Zululami incredibly. And as we know, when you've got scale and you've got variety, then you've got everything. And I think that's what Zululami will gain from Seaton.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. I couldn't agree with you more. I see the next question there on the chat was whether we will have reciprocal access to our neighboring estate, Elaleni, and at this point the answer is no. It's a separate developer. But Bernice, we've been chatting a lot about all these amazing facilities and the beautiful lifestyle on the North Coast. And you wrote a very, very interesting blog recently about this concept of a blue zone, which are scattered around the world in these places where people tend to live extremely long lives. Can you tell us a little bit more about this and how you think it has relevance to your vision at Zululami?
Thanks, Pat. Yes, so because we're involved with developments like Zululami and have been involved with some other developments with retirement components in them, I started to research longevity and what that means. And I actually came across a guy called Dan Buettner. He's an explorer and a writer and writes for National Geographic. And he actually coined the phrase blue zone. And they've identified really 5 hotspots around the world where their longevity is really high and there are high numbers of centenarians. And they really are not just living, they're thriving. They're part of a community, they are active, they're participating, they're creating, and they're living with real purpose. And so through his research of these areas, they came up with 9 lifestyle principles, which are really worth sharing because they're really simple. So it's about moving naturally, belonging, having a sense of purpose, downshifting, so that's obviously less stress, the right tribe, so surrounding yourself with people that you are like-minded with, loved ones first, plants land, so that means a little bit less meat, not easy for us South Africans. The 80% rule where you only eat until you're 80% full. But fortunately, one of the items is you can have wine at 5. So fortunately,
yes, I like that.
So what it all really boils down to is these principles create well-being. And although as designers and especially as developers, we can't control people's habits. But what we can do is think consciously about creating for well-being, and not necessarily just well-being for people, but for the nature that's around us. And I think that's where Zululami ticks a box for me, because I've explained the 43 hectares, that's nearly 40% of your site under nature. So it's actually incredible. So, and then my bigger thinking is that the North Coast to me could be a blue zone. It's got everything going for it. It's got this incredible wild nature that I think people don't even realize consciously why they like it. So if we can get communities to come together, not just within developments, with outside as well, you've got things that just naturally create good well-being.
Yeah. Thanks, Denise. It's wonderful to have you involved on the team and that your vision is so strong for Zululami and the North Coast. Jeff, there's a tough question here that's been posed by Eric Hardy. How do you see the economic downturn and SA factor affecting the development over the next 5 years? And if any of the other panelists want to chip in at this point, you're welcome to.
Yeah, it's a tough one, and it's something that I think is on the forefront of everybody's minds. You know, property historically has a lag, so we often only see economic effects 6 months or so down the line. But I mean, it would be naive for us to think there's not going to be an impact in one way or another. Doesn't matter who you are or where you fitted on the wealth ladder. This has had an impact on you. So to what extent, I'm not certain. What I am certain of, though, is our ambition to ensure that we provide the very best estate that we possibly can, so that Zululami as an estate and the people within it thrive. Because for a estate to be successful, it obviously needs volume, it needs people. So we want to put ourselves in the very, very best position possible, and you know, that's why we have the team we have. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Obviously, we hope it's not going to be as deep as some people predict.
Can I come in there?
Yeah, Murray.
Can I come in there, Pat? I think we must just remember, and it's a very apt question, and thank you for the question. I think we must remember we're not actually in an economic crisis. Now, that might sound silly, but our fundamentals compared to 2008 and 2009, where we're told then that the world will never be the same because of the banking fallout and the crisis that was brought upon us by the junk bonds, 49, and the whole the US, fallout, and think back to those times where that was an economic crisis. We've got a health crisis that is spilling over into a financial crisis. So if we get that right, it should be a much quicker fix than an economic crisis. And I think people must bear that in mind. Of course, times are very tough, and people will take pain, and there is going to be an incredible amount of distress. But fundamentally, I think we're still fine. And I think South Africa actually sits in an incredibly positive situation from all this, politically and economically. And I think the president has made some good inroads into ensuring that our future is better than what our past was. And I think that's what we've got to dwell on. And that's where, as Jeff said, now we're positioning ourselves as developers on the North Coast. And also from a business perspective, it might just put people who are sitting on the fence over the fence and say, you know what, guys, I'm tired of actually talking about it. I'm now going to move to where I want to have a better life, a blue zone, live Bernice's dream or Lisa's dream of gins at 5 or whatever it is, but actually make the move rather than procrastinating. And that's what comes out of these type of situations. Everything comes right eventually. I do believe that we will come right here quicker than what Doomsayers was saying a month ago.
Thanks, Murray.
And the other interesting thing, Murray, to add to that, I mean, Andrew Smith will tell you, the inquiries that we've had at Zululami have gone through the roof during lockdown. Obviously, people have more time on their hands. They're spending, they're paying attention to those very points that Murray's just made. So, I mean, Andrew's inquiries have been unbelievable.
Well, that's the point. And I think, we must remember we're resilient people, South Africans, and I'm glad there are foreigners aboard who've joined our crazy bunch, but we are a resilient bunch and we love being that way. But, guys, just to touch on that, the media and obviously this COVID and coronavirus are very serious, but the media has also painted it into something that might not exist to the extent where everyone is like in trouble, for want of a better. We're in a situation of lockdown, so our trouble is worse than what it actually is. We've had 78 deaths, to put it in perspective, and it's very sad. But to start crucifying the world, saying things are never ever going to be the same, is a myth. And I read a massive article this morning about Sweden, and they are now going, well, guys, we told you so. Let's hope their model's right. We can get back to work, let people get better, or still be safe and use our sense and trying not to get corona, but allowing our minds to work and say, guys, hang on, what's the reality of this? We've got this forever. You're not going to get rid of this virus. It might hopefully get weaker, but let's make decisions that enhance our lives rather than detract from them.
Yeah, excellent, Murray. Thank you. There's been another question here, and Jeff, I think this is probably best coming from you. So because there's this acquisition of Zululami and Seaton, the plans to upgrade any roads in the area, I know that there have already been roads upgraded, but new interchange off the N2, can you speak a little bit about that at all this morning?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do any form of development in modern times, you've got to contribute to community infrastructure upgrades. That's just part of the deal now. So absolutely, we've if you drive down Sheffield Beach Drive now, you'll see we've put in that pedestrian walkway and upgraded half of the road. That was part of our contribution there. We've made upgrades to the water systems, electrical as well. And on Seaton's side, there's numerous upgrades that we're going to need to be a part of. Most exciting, though, will be that off-ramp, which is not completely finalized in terms of SANRAL's approval, but they've been part of the process right the way along now, and it's very exciting, going to be very convenient, and a game changer, really, in terms of the congestion issues that we find around Tiffany's and that at the moment. So these are all huge improvements and contributions that we as developers need to make and must make.
Yeah, and I'm right in saying that new interchange off the N2, the road will be tarred all the way from the N2 right through to Christmas Bay, and obviously there's a future entrance gate on the northern side of Zululami as well, so our residents are not going to have to come off Tiffany's off-ramp and go past Brettonwood, All Souls, and that terrible interchange there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a game changer, as I mentioned.
Brilliant. Lisa, you've just run out of screen. Are you still able to hear us? Okay, you're back. Because my next question is at you now. We've obviously had some real positive sentiment here, and as Murray alluded to, this may just push people over the fence and say to themselves, right, let's move to our blue zone, let's invest in our future and our lifestyles, and what better place to do it than Zululami and the North Coast. So would you be able to tell us how many homes to date have already been through your design review committee at Zululami, and how many you anticipate are in the pipeline?
Pat, my signal's gone a bit bad, but I can hear you. I'm not sure if you can all hear me. We have 30 to 35 opportunities that have come through, and 10 are through council. So it's looking good. And I mean, the HIA is getting busier and busier. People have to book their slots now. You know, we meet once a month. That could go up to twice a month because the demand's getting higher.
Okay.
Pat, I think,
of course, Pat, that would exclude the multi-unit development sites, which obviously come through at bulk. I mean, you've had Aura through and approved, Moyana's approved. A couple of the other multi-unit development sites are in that process. So when you look at the overall number of opportunities that have been approved, it's a significant number to date.
Yeah.
Lisa, Pat, sorry, could I just ask, you know, our relationship with KwaZulu has really, really taken off, and we are really thankful to them for seeing the big picture and joining us in our journey. Lisa, have you seen an improved turnaround from KwaZulu's point of view?
Sorry, Murray, you're breaking up.
I said, have you seen a turnaround from planning approval and council? Have you seen an improvement there in the speed at which things are being done?
Well, we actually meeting with Francois. As we all know, Francois is the town planner. So me, Francois, and Andrew are meeting to try and get a blanket relaxation on building lines, so that we can speed the process up and people don't have to apply for special consent. And as Andrew Smith knows, his plans have taken a while to get through that special consent, the relaxation consent. So if we can alleviate this, your plan should be getting through in 2 months. It should be a process. It's the relaxation that holds everything up. But KwaZulu has acknowledged this and are prepared to work with us. So we are applying for a blanket relaxation.
Okay, great.
Yeah, excellent news that. Lisa, you alluded to this. So it obviously has to go from your architects who design your home to the Zululami Design Review Committee, and then it gets submitted to council thereafter. And once that approval is in place, we can start breaking ground and build your home, correct?
Yes, yeah. There are ways to speed up that process. You are able to apply for early commencement, which seems to work quite well. So before your plans are through, they have to be through town planning, and then you can apply for early commencement, so you can get onto site and get moving up to a certain level. Okay,
brilliant. And then you also mentioned that Andrew, you are busy planning your dream home on Zululami this year. So you very much live and breathe this estate. And you've interacted with almost everyone who has purchased at Zululami so far. So from your personal experience, but also from the people that you have showed around at Zululami, what is the most significant thing about Zululami that people enjoy so much?
Thanks, Pat. You're right. We have got a plot of land there. Our plans have been drawn, and we can't wait to move into the estate and to start to enjoy all of the facilities that it offers, even at this early stage. And I think the commitment from the developer to put in facilities right up front, something quite unique, and one has to tip your hat to them, because the clubhouse, as I mentioned earlier, is destined to be completed. Let's just call it at the beginning of next year, given the lockdown and the loss of building time. And you know, the boardwalks are all in, the cycling and the running trails are in, and I'm an avid fisherman. So for me, I can't wait to move in, because 6 o'clock in the morning, you'll catch me at Christmas Bay flicking a line. And it's just the way I want to live my life, Pat, amongst nature. And I think just coming to that point is, you know, Zululami has been marketed unashamedly as a family lifestyle estate. It's an environment that caters to everyone in that family and their respective needs. So whether you're a 10-year-old kid, whether you're a retiree, there's something for you to do. Now we've marketed Zululami along and highlighted 3 elements, and being sea, wetland, and forest. And in each of those elements, we've created facilities that speak and align themselves to those elements. So, you know, if I take the journey that a 10-year-old kid would experience, Saturday morning, he runs out the house, what can he do? And we've got the traditional cycling trail, you know, ride your bike, tennis courts, cricket nets. We've got a lovely swimming pool, room flow swimming pool, amphitheater for children, you know, allied to the clubhouse, where on a Friday evening they might want to go and watch The Lion King on the big screen. We have the amphitheater, there's a fishing dam that the kids can play around in. And we want our kids to revel in the estate. We want the estate to be their playground, and to do things in the old-fashioned way: squelch in the mud, catch tadpoles, put them in a bottle. And then, of course, I called it the masterstroke earlier. The access that the kids are going to have to Christmas Bay to play in those tidal pools is just unique. Those of you that know Christmas Bay and those at low tide, those pools reveal themselves, and they truly are magnificent. So it's a real kids' playground. And then for the rest of the family, you've got the walking trails and the restaurant, which is going to be a world-class restaurant run by the guys from Ray's, and a cocktail bar where we can, in the evenings, just take a saunter, you know, down to the pub and go and watch the birds come home to roost. So it truly is a spectacular place in terms of facilities. So, Pat, I think my parting comment really is that, you know, the North Coast is a hotspot for estates. We know that there's some fantastic brands along the North Coast. And I just encourage people out there to come through to our sales office, come and visit us, and we'll practice social distancing and all those things to keep one another out of harm's way. But we want to showcase Zululami to you, and we want you to discover the magic of Zululami. And as the developers have said, they want Zululami to be a sanctuary of well-being for us and for our minds and for our bodies. And so the invite is there to each of you guys to engage with us either online, or if you want to come to site when the lockdown's over, we'd be very proud to show you around. And we know that you'll go away particularly impressed with what the developer's vision is and how it's coming to fruition now.
Thanks very much, Andrew. Some very fitting closing comments there. So it looks like we've run out of time. All that's left for me to do is to thank our panelists. You guys have all made a very, very passionate and authentic impression, so thank you. And then to all our listeners, everyone who's tuned in this morning, we hope that you've enjoyed this Connect with Collins. If you would like to engage further with us, please contact us via our various platforms, so website, Facebook, Instagram. And then we're going to end off with a very short video that encapsulates some of the things that we have discussed this morning. So take care and a very good day to you all.
Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you, Pat.